So sitting here with Unmani, this thing called life, what's it about?
I have no idea. What thing called life?
This.
Yeah, we really don't know, that's the point. All we know is that it's happening. And we have no idea what it means or where it's going, where it's come from, why it's happening, how it's happening. We try and figure it out with our minds, and we just come up with endless theories. And the point is, we just don't know.
You can't figure it out.
No, there's no answer. Well, there's endless answers, but no one final answer.
Is there any answer you believed in for a long time?
Not really. I don't think I ever really believed in anything for very long. Maybe, not that I can remember right now anyway.
Mm-hmm. When you were a child, you already sensed that something that people were telling you was not right.
Yeah, you read my story.
Yeah, I heard an interview, read your story.
Yeah.
But how did people react to that? Did they think you had to be brainwashed some more, or how did the people react when you talked about it, or didn't you?
Well, I didn't. I was pretty scared to talk about it as a child. I was very confused. I didn't understand how people seemed to be behaving as if we're all separate individuals, and people would ask me questions about what I thought about something, or my opinion, or what I want to be when I grow up, or my favourite colour, or something. And I had no idea. So I learned to, play along, to give the right answer somehow. To copy other people, or to say something really original or something, just to get people off my back.
Yeah. And like in how do you call it, adolescence, like when you're 14, 15 years old, did you join a group of punks or people who liked rave music, or what was that like?
I didn't really join any group. I was quite a loner. Because of the same thing, I really felt very confused, and as a teenager became very depressed.
Yeah.
And emotional, like a lot of teenagers. It's a tough time. A lot of problems with my parents, and but also what was interesting at that time, I started studying religious studies at school, and one of the things that we did in the religious studies, it was mainly Christianity, but one of the things was philosophy of religion and ethics, and there were a lot of. We started looking at the question of God. What is God? What is existence? What's the point? What's the reason for it all? And all these fundamental questions were coming at a time when I was really confused and pretty suicidal, in fact. I just really couldn't see the point in any of it. So it really kind of got me thinking about it a lot more, and got me more depressed.
Yeah, more thinking, more depression.
Yeah. And it didn't really help me, but somehow I guess it focused my search in some way. And I started searching for the point.
Point of life.
The point of it all.
Yeah.
Because I didn't see any point.
The meaning of life.
Yeah, the meaning of life.
Like Monty Python.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. I was really depressed. I'd walk in front of cars and I just didn't care.
Yeah.
Live or die, it doesn't matter. What's the point? What's the difference? Yeah.
But when did something change?
Well,
what triggered it?
After that, I left England and I lived in Israel for about 8 years, and I went to university there. And it helped a little bit to get away from my family, but I found that I was still carrying my family, my mother's voice in my head a lot of the time. And she's quite domineering, and so I was still carrying around all her opinions and her beliefs about life, and struggling to find my own identity. I didn't find an identity.
Never found
an identity. So I was struggling to find it, and I was searching for an identity. I did some therapy for a while, and that seemed to help temporarily.
And when you were in Israel, were you was your identity part Jewish, or?
I tried that hat on for a while.
The little cap, or what you call it? Yeah.
No, I tried that role. My family's not particularly religious. I didn't grow up in a particularly religious family, but it was more traditional and cultural. So,
Yeah. But no identity.
no real identity. But somehow kind of feeling like I belonged into that in that Jewish family feeling. It's very family orientated.
Yeah.
So in Israel, I found more confusion really. And,
people talking to walls over there, or what are they doing? Like, yeah.
Well,
yeah,
it's one identity.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's great
I tried
for them.
that.
Yeah.
I tried that for a while.
The wall didn't talk back.
It didn't. No, but it does seem to for some people.
Yeah. So you went away from Israel back to England, or just traveling?
I had a relationship with someone in Israel which ended pretty traumatically, and I was very upset and wanted to get away from him. So I left the country and I went traveling. My idea was to go to travel in India, but I needed to make money first, so I went to Japan and worked there for a while, and then
Great.
Had some interesting experiences, and then Thailand. And then when I was in Thailand, someone said to me, "You've got to go to India. It's very important for you." And at that time I was in the search, so everyone and everything that I came across was so significant.
Yeah.
You know.
They all had meaning.
Yeah, it all had meaning to me, you know.
Yeah.
Somehow this is going to change my life.
Yeah.
And in a sense it did. So I went straight to India, and I ended up living in India for 3 years. Towards the end of, first of all I got involved in Osho. He wasn't actually alive anymore, but I went to Pune and did a lot of the meditations there and the therapy groups, and I loved Osho's words.
It touched you?
Really touched me, yeah. I took sannyas, which is what my name Unmani, is from there. And that taking sannyas for me was a kind of turning point in some way.
Sannyas is kind of a meditation, or
no? It's when you receive a new name. It's also when you make a commitment. I think it's something like to have to live a life of meditation.
Okay.
And to me, that meant a life totally sacrificed, totally dedicated to find the meaning of it, or to find the truth.
Okay.
And nothing else was worth anything.
Finally, an identity for you.
Well, yeah, some kind of yes. Well, I don't know, an identity, but some
meaning.
kind of
Purpose.
A purpose. That,
a goal.
The only meaning would be to find meaning.
Yeah.
Or to find the truth of it all, you know.
And have you found it?
Well, I spent some years there, and I became disillusioned with that too, because there's a lot of beauty there, and I learned a lot, but like a lot of other spiritual trips, it became another trip.
Yeah.
And I came across a woman called Delano while I was in Pune, and I went to see her, and that was the end of it really for me there. Because she was this very tough German woman, very scary actually.
Yeah.
And I'd heard about her, and I'd heard that she was only accepting people to her satsang who were ready to die. And
big statement.
Yeah. And so I was pretty depressed by that time, because I was so disillusioned with the whole searching spiritual trip.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah, and everything. And I had I'd done a primal feelings workshop in Pune, going back to your childhood, reliving,
rebirthing,
some breathing and rebirthing, screaming, catharsis,
crying.
Yeah, and on the last day I broke my leg,
trying
to kill my mother. I was jumping up and down, screaming, and
you broke your leg during
during the catharsis session, and I continued jumping on it, and even though it was broken, so much adrenaline was running through my
didn't
body.
feel anything. No,
didn't feel anything, and then I did. But on the last day, after that catharsis session, the therapist said, "This group is just a taste of the work that you need to do on yourself," and I just couldn't believe it. There's no way it could be that difficult. I felt that this is really the end for me, and so I thought, okay, I'll write to Delano and I'll tell her that I'm ready to die. And I did, and I said, I think I'm ready to die, and I told her the whole situation, and waited for her response. And she wrote back about a week later.
That you could come?
No. She wrote back saying, "Write to me when you're sure you're ready to die."
You got a letter back from this woman Delano in Germany. Oh,
no,
she's from Germany, but
in Pune.
In Pune.
Yeah.
And
so
she
write to me when you're sure you're ready to die. So she wasn't just messing about there.
Mm-hmm.
She was
serious.
You had to dive in. You couldn't just test the water.
Yeah.
And so I got even more depressed and more suicidal for about another week.
You were rejected.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I mean, also I realised how serious she was. This is really the end. So then I wrote to her and I said, "Okay, I'm sure I'm ready to die." And she accepted me, and I spent a month with her.
Alone or with a group?
With a group, yeah.
So what
it was
was
a
it
horrible
like?
month.
Yeah.
Horrible and intense and
Did
terrifying.
you get hit with a stick?
Yeah, in a way.
Yeah?
Absolutely, and I'm absolutely grateful for it. Yeah.
What did you? Is it like Zen, like a Zen master?
She calls herself a Zen master. Yeah. She basically uses inquiry, investigations into what is true, step by step, every day. Having a different person up the front to investigate.
His or her beliefs.
Yes, but she would guide it with the question, who are you, to start with, and then other questions. And it was very intense. And at some point in that month, it was all over. Like I realised that what I was searching for was what I always knew. That I never had an identity, and that's exactly the way it is, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's in fact perfect.
Was it maybe some kind of confirmation for you that you weren't crazy?
Yeah, it was, absolutely. And it was also, it gave me the courage to admit that this is it. This is, to not know who I am is exactly who I am.
It's fine.
Yeah, and that it was really courage that I needed, in a way. I was a kind of scared, confused little girl.
Mm-hmm.
And
what was your age then?
Well, I was 25 or something like that, but I still felt like a scared, confused little girl. And somehow, you could say something died there.
Yeah.
I can't really explain it. I can't put it into words. Time stopped.
So no watch for you after that? Or just a function?
I was a floating hippie before that, so I never had a watch before that anyway.
So, and did after that any meditation anymore, or what changed?
No. Well, after that, I still spent a couple of years floating around Australia and New Zealand and England. I was still a bit confused as to how to live this, what to do now, because all my motivation before was about searching and finding, and I had no more motivation for anything.
Yeah, what now?
Now? What's the point? What am I doing?
Enjoy.
Yeah, well, exactly. I started to enjoy. I had a lot of fun after that.
So was that maybe the first time in your life that really was enjoyment instead of confusion?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But at a certain point, I think it was a couple of years later, that there was a real kind of relaxation with I don't know, not even needing to try to live this and to bring it into my life. And,
just normal.
Just, ordinary. Everything that happens is it.
Chop wood, carry water, or what was the saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And when did this whole talking to people start?
It started a bit after that, so...
Was it pure out of economic consequences,
no,
or
not at all, no.
You wanted to share this, or?
I started writing for myself.
Yeah.
I started writing what became my first book, and somehow through friends or whatever connections, it became published. And while it was being published, a friend suggested that I start talking, and I felt like I had nothing to say. What am I gonna? I just felt ridiculous to speak about this. It's all very well writing, but the writing was kind of a way for me to feel less confused about it, in a way.
Put it in order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to actually speak, that was scary. But somehow these friends persuaded me, and the first meeting I was in a friend's lounge with
10 people, 15
I
people?
think like 6 people,
Yeah.
and 3 of them were my friends. And I sat there and I didn't know what to say. And it's the same now, but the first time was really scary. I didn't know what to say, and I didn't want to just speak for the sake of it.
Yeah.
So I just sat there and waited.
And words came.
Well, after a long time,
Yeah.
people, they were watching and
What's
waiting.
gonna happen?
What's going to happen? And
It's
then
exciting.
At some point, it started speaking.
Yeah.
And I was so surprised.
How many years is that ago now?
I've lost count. I think it's roughly 7, 6, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it still feels fresh and new every time you talk about it?
Absolutely. I'm so amazed and grateful every time. It's shocking.
You do it all over the world, or are there certain countries which people are more interested in this message, like Germany, Holland, England? How is it in England?
Yeah.
Is it a lot of people who are interested
Yeah.
and come?
Yeah. I don't spend that much time in England anymore, but when I'm there, I do meetings.
Yeah.
In not knowing. But I spend about 6 months a year usually in Australia, in Byron Bay, and I travel a little bit around Australia as well, doing retreats and tours.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Nice
So-
weather, better than here in Holland.
Well, I avoid winters.
You avoid winters?
Yeah, I don't do winter in Europe or there.
That's
It
nice.
works out well.
Yeah. Okay, so this book, which is not published yet, Die to Love,
Yeah.
is everything love? Or can you say that's love, that isn't?
Well, the point of love is that it includes everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's only thought that separates and says this is love and this isn't love.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, the love that I'm talking about, because the word love can be used in
Very
lots and
many
lots
ways,
of ways, yeah. But the love that I'm talking about is another word for who I am, for life itself.
Yeah.
And
Unconditional love.
unconditional love, yeah. But not a kind of behaviour. Not talking about being loving or kind.
Mm-hmm. Because some people say, yeah, everything is love. But what about World War II?
Yeah.
People
well,
come
that-
with those
that
examples.
is absolutely love too. And
Yeah.
people hate that. They find
Why
that
is that
very
absolutely love too? What,
Because love includes everything. You know, we may not understand it, we may not agree with it. We have this, thought has, it separates good and bad, right and wrong. We have opinions about things.
But it's all learned, having an opinion about something.
Yeah, yeah.
Or is it something natural that arises?
Well, either way, it
We don't
doesn't
know.
matter. It's
there.
thought that arises, and the nature of thought is to separate good and bad, and right and wrong, and black and white. And,
Yeah. So is this kind of duality needed to even experience anything, or have a world, or?
It seems to be needed because it is.
Yeah.
It's obviously needed.
So people who try to get rid of duality, or only want to see the so-called good things of life, are even being more, having more separation, or?
Absolutely. In a sense, I mean, ultimately not. Because no one is actually separated.
They think that, yeah.
While they think that and believe that, then that seems to be their reality.
But nothing wrong with that.
No, because ultimately they are not that.
Mm-hmm.
But that their experience may be painful.
Because
the experience of feeling separate can be a painful experience. Which is why people start searching. Because they feel that pain of the separation.
they want wholeness again,
Yeah.
oneness.
And they want it because they know they are that already.
Yeah, so they're searching for something they already
They
are. Already know. They know what they're searching for.
Yeah, and that's why they know it when they find it.
Yeah. Otherwise you can't recognize it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it like the dog chasing its own tail, or?
Yeah, because when you find it, you realise you never lost it. You were it looking for itself
Yeah.
all
So-
the time.
Is that the great cosmic joke, or the
Yeah, you could call
God playing a game with itself, or you could call it a million
call
things.
it anything.
Yeah.
We really don't know.
No.
That's the thing. we could call it what we like, but we only want to call it something to make ourselves feel more comfortable.
Yeah. Ah, now I know. Now I can go back to sleep.
Yeah. I've given it a little label.
So we're here in Amsterdam. Do you feel the same everywhere you go, even if you're in Australia or in Amsterdam, or is like the vibe, the energy, is it a little different? Or yeah?
Sure, yeah. Yeah.
How does it feel like here in Amsterdam? Is it more exciting than in maybe Melbourne, or is it?
Actually, it's quite similar to Melbourne.
Yeah?
Yeah, because Melbourne's quite a European kind of city. It's funny you should say Melbourne, actually. It's quite different to other places in Australia.
Yeah?
Yeah.
A lot of different cultures, people meeting.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in Byron Bay, which is quite an alternative, spiritual centre.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of floating hippie people.
Yeah.
So that's obviously very different to a city.
And in America, you do these talks in America?
I have done, yeah.
How is it over there?
Yeah, different again. Americans are very different. They don't get my sense of humour.
No?
No.
They don't laugh at all?
Well, they laugh at all the wrong places and take me seriously when I'm joking.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's
But
the sarcasm they don't get.
But a lot of Christianity over there.
Yeah, I guess, but I haven't really come across that so much when I've done meetings there.
So if someone in America asks you, tell me about God, what do you say to them?
I don't know about God. I don't have anything to say
Let
about
me tell
it.
you about God.
Oh, if they want to tell me about
Yeah.
it, okay, they can.
Yeah? And
If
you're
they
just patient and listen and...
Not necessarily, no. It depends on the situation. It depends on the person.
Has the word God any meaning to you, or not at all?
Well, it's such a loaded word, so I guess I prefer not to use it. But then, also I love the way some people do use it. In a way, it's a kind of total surrender. Again, whether we call it a surrender to God, it doesn't matter who you surrender to or what you surrender to.
Just surrender.
It's a surrender. Yeah.
You talk about, for instance, God's will or Allah's will, or no?
I wouldn't go that far.
No, but people try to explain it that well. But there's not an entity or something like that which controls life.
No, there's no separation. There is only life.
And life controls itself.
There's no control.
No.
Well, I have no idea how it works.
Yeah.
I don't care.
No.
No.
You stopped searching for answers. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the website is notknowing.com?
Not -9. Yeah.
Sorry?
Not -9. Yeah.
What can people find on there? Movies from satsangs, or maybe some texts you wrote out of your book?
Yeah, some dialogues. They can buy my book. Maybe soon my other book.
Mm-hmm. Die to Love.
Die to Love. What else?
Can people send you questions? Maybe some questions arose out of this interview.
They can email me on there, and sometimes
you write back.
Yeah. I'm wary of saying I'll write back to everybody, because
it's a lot of work.
A lot of emails, and also a lot of people are asking questions that I could just give them the kind of correct non-dual response, but that's not what I do. So I prefer people to actually come to the meetings, so that I can actually point beyond words.
And do you do personal talks with people, one-on-one?
Yeah, I do sometimes when I have time for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the main question which always comes up is how do I get happy, or make me happy, or?
Yeah, that question does come up sometimes. Maybe not quite as directly as that, but yeah, that's the bottom line for a lot of people. They want just to be happy, and they don't want to ever feel uncomfortable or sad or angry or irritated.
You said it's impossible.
Well, that's just not the way it is.
No.
Yeah. Recently, a meeting that I just did on the weekend in Amsterdam, there was someone who's very ill and was, clearly frustrated and upset with his situation, and was asking me for some advice or help. And there's absolutely nothing I can say. I can
don't like accept it, or some people say that in spirituality, say accept the pain, accept this, accept that, even not that.
No, I have nothing, no suggestion, no practice for him to try to accept, because that's just work and effort, and it's impossible. You can't always accept. That's just not the way the mind is. The mind just won't accept sometimes.
Yeah.
The mind will be frustrated sometimes. That's just the way it is. So it's beyond acceptance. It's more seeing the nature of it. You know, the nature of the mind, the nature of thought is to create dramas and problems and stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's its nature, and to expect it to be any different is just crazy.
Yeah. But you can stop believing those stories. Don't search for yourself.
You can see the nature of those stories. So it's not about stopping believing them. It's seeing the nature of those stories, seeing that they are just stories.
Mm-hmm.
You
can still believe them.
Well, it's not.
You don't choose.
You don't believe them, but it's. I prefer to say that it's about seeing the nature of it, rather than like now try not to believe them, because that's still as if there's someone who can do something. But in seeing the nature of it, you just kind of see it for what it is, without trying to change it. Even seeing the believing for what it is.
Yeah, just let it be.
Yes, well, even that is too much effort.
Yeah, too much effort.
Yeah, you can't let it be.
No.
It is already, whether you let it be or not. It's not up to you.
It is as it is, yeah. So no practice, no advice.
No help.
No help. Maybe sometimes people go away frustrated then.
It's possible, but actually I notice that in not trying to help and in not having any agenda with people, that actually there's a relaxation that seems to happen.
Yeah.
And I've got nothing to do with it, but somehow it seems to happen in these meetings or retreats that are run, that people long to actually relax into nothing to do. This is it already. I don't know anything. There's such a relief for that. I don't need to know. And then...
Don't need any answers.
Don't need any answers. No. It's fine. Just chill out, enjoy.
Relax, take a beer. Yeah. So, because you don't enforce the story when you try to help. If you try to help, maybe you enforce the story more.
Yeah. No, I'm sometimes there's a time and a place to listen to a little bit of the story, because otherwise people feel like they don't get heard in a way. But then I have no interest in reinforcing their story at all.
No.
Or analysing their story, or trying to fix them in some way. It's really just undermining the whole thing. That's all I can do.
Yeah.
There's no other point.
So at those meetings, surely something, you can't name it, but it happens. You call it relaxation.
Yeah.
Plunge into nothingness, I heard someone call it.
Yeah, some kind of recognition, you could say. Recognizing that you always are.
Yeah.
Recognizing that this is just a game. The whole thing's just life playing a game, however we put it. It's just a joke. And actually a lot of people already know that, or most people already know that. So it's often like a kind of, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I know that.
Yeah, I forgot it.
Yeah.
I once knew it.
That's what you mean. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So often it's not a big deal. Some people have big experiences and all that, but a lot of people it's just, yeah.
So no big spiritual experiences for you, like what's it called? Samadhi or...
I've had lots of spiritual experiences, but they're absolutely irrelevant.
Yeah, that's nothing to do with this.
Nothing to do with it. Yeah.
Some people confuse this with being in Samadhi all the time, or...
Yeah, it's got nothing to do with that. If a spiritual... I wouldn't call it a spiritual experience, but, some kind of... some kind of amazing experience happens. So what? It's just like, drinking this tea. It's just
the same.
As important, as valuable as this. Maybe not quite as valuable as tea, actually.
Yeah, this is great tea. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.